Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary on Game 7 day. After Game 7 weekend in the NBA, it's now Game 7 day in the NHL. We will break it all down, what we saw last weekend and what we are going to see tonight. Plus, looking at a big fight in the world of boxing. Usyk versus Fury delivered in a big-time way, and we get ready for a big weekend in the world of professional wrestling, both WWE and AEW, with premium events this weekend. So a lot to cover. I've already talked enough before we get into it, so let's start with the hockey. It is Game 7, and really, this series deserved this game. It has been such a roller coaster with how well both teams have played at various different times. It has been close the whole way with the exception of Game 6 in Edmonton, and now it comes down to one final game. And unfortunately, the headlines coming into this one aren't necessarily about what could happen tonight, but it's what won't happen, and that will be Brock Boeser in this game, someone who has struggled with injuries for quite a length of time. He is now out, and it is incredibly serious. It's blood clots, and so first and foremost, it does feel like trivial to talk about the hockey side of things. So you just want to say, firstly, as a human being, you hope he is all right, and just kind of go from there. So the rest of this is about hockey, but I understand that like hockey is like 95th on the priorities when it comes to this sort of a thing. From a hockey standpoint, it sucks because you don't want either team to have an excuse. And Vancouver is already on their third string goalie. Now, that's because the backup wasn't very good, but still, they're onto their third string goalie and are now down one of their top offensive weapons. And so they had so much trouble generating offense, with the exception of Game 5. They've had so much trouble generating offense in this series anyway. And now one of your best weapons is out. And I don't know how you adjust, because like Miller obviously can score, right? Like he gets the winner, but Boeser just has that ability, I've said it before, to score from distance. Just that one quick shot that really gets things going. He can do that, and it feels like this team has had to work so hard for the opportunities they have anyway. Now you are adding another degree of difficulty. So I think it is more pressure on Pettersson tonight. It is more pressure on Lindholm tonight to step up into those roles that people thought they were going to. If Lindholm wants to be a $9 million guy, tonight would be a hell of a night to have a $9 million performance. On the Vancouver side of things, I worry about what this does for the game plan. It feels like they have tried to slow these games down, and it just doesn't work. Or at times it has worked, but they had their best game when they were out there and they were firing on all cylinders. And then I thought in Game 6, they once again tried to slow it down and play kind of low event hockey, and eventually the Oilers are going to get going and skate you out of the barn. And that's what happened in Game 6. And so now that you don't have one of your top goal scorers and you have your third string goalie between the pipes, I'm worried that it is going to be an incredible defensive shell from Vancouver, and they're going to try to just have one goal squeak through Skinner and hope that can carry them through to the Western Conference Final. And I don't think that's how you need to play against Edmonton. I'm not saying try to go like stride for stride with them the whole time, because then you're just doing what Edmonton does and not as well. But they, I think, have sunken too far back into the defensive shell anyway, and I think they have even more reason to think they need to do that tonight with no Brock Boeser. So I'm really interested to see how it goes, and especially because they're coming off of one of their worst performances of the postseason. Edmonton completely controlled the back part of Game 6. Edmonton never really let Vancouver have the puck. And I talked in Game 4 about how that felt more like Vancouver losing it than Edmonton winning it. This one felt like both at the same time. Like Vancouver definitely didn't play their best hockey, but Edmonton just never allowed them to touch the puck. And that was, I thought, really good control. And for the second time in this series, I thought Vancouver had a goalie who could potentially be vulnerable, and they didn't test that guy. We will see what they do tonight, but I think it's really, really interesting. Another key from this, Vancouver got into penalty trouble early in Game 6. That cannot happen tonight. This Edmonton Oilers power play is too dangerous to continue to play with that type of a fire, and especially with Vancouver, the history they have and all of that. You don't want nervous energy creeping into that barn tonight. You want that place to be buzzing. You want the 80s movie music to be playing after goals, and the lights going crazy and all of this. Vancouver, I think, really is going to have to feed off of that momentum that they get from their home crowd and just go all out in this one. This is going to be such an amazing game. I am so excited because I have no idea. I was leaning toward Vancouver in this one before the Besser news. And now, like I said before, they've just had to work so hard to get anything going offensively. So I do worry about what it's going to take now with no Brock Besser. But if Pettersson steps up and plays the way he can, then Vancouver probably wins. We just haven't seen that at all this series. And we haven't really had a McDavid game yet. Even though he's played well, and I thought some of the criticism of him is insane, but we just haven't had he is just miles ahead of everyone out there. We haven't had that yet. Do we get that in Game 7 tonight? Either way, legacies are going to be defined, and the Dallas Stars are hoping this bad boy goes 6 periods, and that eventually the winning team ends up being pretty beat up, because you got a real tough test coming out of this after Dallas picked up that win over the weekend. My official prediction, I'm still going to go Vancouver. I don't trust Skinner. But golly, is this going to be a really, really fun hockey game coming up tonight. It's the stuff legends are made of. Let's shift now to the NBA, where we had legends made in a couple of Game 7s yesterday. What a weekend it was in the NBA. We will start, with the Knicks taking on the Indiana Pacers, and we'll have more time to talk about the Pacers as the week goes on. Sorry about that. But I want to talk about the Knicks, because I admittedly just fell in love with this team as the season went on, and it does, I'm apparently very choked up about it. It does feel a little oversimplistic to just say, they were worn down. But by the end, no Brunson, no Randall, no OG, no Bogdanovich, and no Robinson with a limited heart is really, really difficult to come back from. It just ends up being too many minutes for Burks, too many minutes for McBride in big situations, and eventually that toll is just too much to take. And the Knicks had incredible battle all season long, and it does feel like now they have laid a foundation for what could be a championship team. There are improvements that are needed, no question. I do think some of the talk about, the East is going to be a bit more difficult, so the Knicks need to really ramp things up. It's like, I don't know, like, Milwaukee might be better, but who else? Who's coming? Philadelphia will probably load up at some point. So, okay, there's another one that you have to keep up with a little bit. And they are behind the Celtics for sure. But I don't see much of a world where Cleveland's better next year. Orlando could be coming, but I think they have a ways to go to catch up to where the Knicks are now, and I do think the Knicks get better in the offseason. So I genuinely don't think that this is just going to be a one-hit wonder or anything like that for the Knicks. I think this is going to be a team that is going to be competitive in the Eastern Conference and competing for championships for a bit now. But they do need to get a little bit of help. And that should be coming in the offseason. But there's a foundation there, like I said. Randall is an interesting piece, but when he is going, boy, is he good. Brunson is a star. Hart, OG, and DiVincenzo are all role-ish type players that you win with. So I think they have that foundation there. There just needs to be that one more thing, I think, that puts them over the top. And they really, like, I think they win this game if there's just, even if just OG can play. And man, did that look painful when he tried to play it out with the hamstring and he's just kind of hobbling around the whole court. But it was too much for guys who they didn't really trust. And I wonder if Tibbs, he probably won't, but I wonder if this is a time to kind of assess how Tibbs runs things and recognize, like, look, maybe we just ease up on the gas pedal a little bit and put in some more guys so that we trust more guys when it comes time for the postseason, even though a bunch of them, like, you lost basically a starting rotation by the time all was said and done. But I do think that there needs to be maybe get a few more players acclimated as the year goes along. But that's just me. But even with all the injuries, they got it close. At one point it was 22. They'd worked it down to 15 by the half. And I thought at that point, like, man, this is really big that they were able to get this down to 15. And then it was 11. And then they were chipping away. And now all of a sudden it's a 7-point game. And the pass is turned over. And Indy gets a bucket. Another steal, Indy gets another bucket, timeout, 5-second violation, bucket again. All of a sudden it's 15, and it's curtains. It's done. It's over. And you look bigger picture at it. Nembhard hits this unbelievable shot in game 3 that, like, if you replay that game 10 times, he's missing that 7 or 8 of them. But this universe just happened to be the one where he hit it, and instead of 3-0, it's 2-1. I don't think they blow a 3-0 lead in this series. I'm going to give the Pacers their flowers in a second because they deserve a lot of them. But this Knicks team, for the battle that they showed, I loved having Madison Square Garden matter again. I loved having the Knicks matter again. I loved that energy that this team brought, and they are going to bring it. This offseason is going to be, I think, really interesting. You now have a style of player that you are looking for that will fit what you are looking to do. You now have a foundation for the first time in so long in New York that you can build around. Onward and upward, I think, for the New York Knicks. But the Indiana Pacers put up an all-time great Game 7, and they should absolutely be credited for that. The best field goal percentage in the history of Game 7s. I don't care if the Knicks were beat up. If you're doing that in a random shoot-around, that's incredible with what was on the line. Just fantastic performances, especially at the start, where they just, like, put it away early. And like I said, the Knicks had that comeback, but you come out there and just immediately establish, like, hey, I know we were scared in that Game 5. We're not here today. This is a different team that you have to deal with now. And they let them know early that was going to be the case. And specifically, it was Tyrese Halliburton who reminded everyone how good he was. A tremendous shooting performance, and he got it going again early on and established that rhythm and really put the pressure on the Knicks. And then OG goes out, and it felt like things started to mount on New York. But Halliburton really is the key for this team. And Zach Lowe said on his podcast today, if this series goes 6, that will be moderately surprising. If it goes 7, that'll be an incredible accomplishment for the Indiana Pacers. They are a gigantic underdog, and if they're going to have any hope, Halliburton needs to be one of the best players in this series, and he can be. He has dealt with a leg injury throughout the year, and that certainly has slowed him, but when he is going, this is a fantastic player that takes this team from good to great. Offensively, anyway. Defensively, but offensively, he takes this team from good to great, and he also got a lot of help in Game 7. I thought Siakam was great off the start, and they were talking about his championship experience with the Raptors and all of those sorts of things. But I thought he, again, especially early on, was a real problem. And as soon as OG went out, I thought it was really important that they got Siakam a couple of buckets, and that just gets the oh shit going in the Knicks. And again, got that ball rolling. And Miles Turner was awesome. From distance, he was helping out defensively. Like, he was the best version of himself in this game. And so when all of those pieces are clicking, this offense really is one of the best that we have seen in basketball. Like, you can get on it a little bit because the defense is basically non-existent at times. And it can feel a little bit gimmicky, especially in an era where offense is so easy to come by. But they really are one of the truly great offenses that we have seen of the last while. Like, it can just come from all angles at you. McConnell coming off of the bench, Nembhard can get going. Matherin's hurt in this series, but he can get going. They really do have an offense that can give you major problems. One more thing. This was an excellent coaching job by Rick Carlisle to get this team to regroup after they looked so overwhelmed in Game 5 is a really, really great coaching job. And I do feel like Rick Carlisle is one of the more underrated coaches that we have had in the NBA for what he is able to do. There was a stretch there where admittedly he was a little overrated, but this team is so different from what you would expect a Rick Carlisle team to do. He has meshed kind of morphed his coaching style to fit the type of team that he has, and he has done it beautifully. So that Game 7 was a dud. The other one was, then it wasn't, then it was, as the Minnesota Timberwolves upset the Denver Nuggets. Nay, stun the Denver Nuggets to pick up a victory. I didn't think this was going to happen. I just kind of thought the Nuggets were eventually going to be like, okay, championship medal and all of that. Here we go. But the Timberwolves were just undeniable. 54-24 run after being down by 20 to take a 10-point lead and never give it up. And the wild thing about it is that you did this without a really good Anthony Edwards shooting performance. I think he was 6 for 24. But what was really impressive about him is that he found other ways to help this team win. He was facilitating, he was at least drawing attention, and one of the biggest things that he did was he went on Murray for a little bit and shut him down, and then eventually that shot comes back in the big moments. But that is such a rare thing for some of the, especially so young at 22. Like, the shot's not falling, all right, this is just going to be a bad game. It's like, okay, the shot's not falling, what else can I do to get my team to win a Game 7 and get to the Western Conference Finals for just the second time in franchise history? That is special stuff from Anthony Edwards. And again, the supporting cast kind of helped out as well. Rudy Gobert was about as good as you can ask of him, making wild turnaround fadeaway shots like Dirk Nowitzki. And obviously defensively doing what he does. I thought it was a really good Cat game. Even with the fouls, I thought Karl Anthony Towns had a really strong game. And then Naz Reid was just brilliant coming off of the bench for the Timberwolves and gave them that spark that they always feed off of. And it now sets up such an intriguing matchup in the West Final. I would imagine Ant is going to want a little bit of that Luka. And then the size, like Gafford has been a great acquisition for this team and likely has stepped up in a big time way for them as well. But do they have the size to be able to combat that? And this defense is going to throw everything they have at Luka. This needs to be a good Kyrie series. And I think you're going to need to see, like, PJ Washington is going to need to step up as well. But this is going to be such a fun chess match for 4 to 7 games. I cannot wait for it. We do have to pour one out for the Denver Nuggets, who just didn't quite have enough to break on through. Aaron Gordon didn't really have it at all this series. MPJ went really quiet, and there's obviously a lot going on with his family right now. And then with Murray being shut down on Edwards, it was just, that was it. And then Jokic, for a split second, lost that confidence there. And I think that was a real sign that Minnesota had won. When Jokic had it at the three-point line, he was open. And for the first time, I'm not going to say he looked spooked, but he was looking somewhere else. He didn't trust what he had at that time. And he kind of looked around, was like, well, no one else is going, so I have to shoot this. And it clangs and it doesn't go. But they just didn't have enough here at the end. And I think now, we talk about championship foundation. They obviously have it. They're the defending champions. But they need to address that depth in this offseason. And that tax is creeping up and creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. So it's going to be difficult. And the West is only going to be getting better. There's no way that this isn't the worst season Victor Wembanyama has with the San Antonio Spurs. Memphis is getting everybody back now with Ja Morant and all of those guys. Not Steven Adams anymore, but they are getting everyone back. The Lakers aren't going to go quietly into that dark night either, right? Same with the Clippers. There is so much you need to worry about in this West. Like, I don't think that this is going to be the end for Minnesota. So there's obviously a lot that is coming at these guys that they need to figure out. Oklahoma City too. There's a lot coming at these guys that they're going to have to deal with. There is no question they have to improve. The depth, I think, specifically has to improve. That bench is going to have to come up big, like it did a season ago. They're going to need to step it up. And I do think they'll be able to find the pieces that you need. But this wasn't just, we lost a tough year. We were tired after playing all that basketball. No. This was Minnesota Timberwolves beating you on a home court that was supposed to be unbeatable. So they need to assess, be humble about it, and try to grow from here. All right, let's move into the boxing world. As Oleksandr Usyk put on an all-time great performance in an all-time great fight against Tyson Fury. What a fantastic fight in Saudi Arabia on Saturday for us morning, afternoon. It had great moments. It was close at the end. It had drama. Just a great fight. And in the end, Usyk's knockdown ends up being the difference, as he is now your undisputed heavyweight champion for the first time, fittingly, since it was Holyfield against Lennox, that we have an undisputed heavyweight champion, and it's the dude who's moved up from cruiserweight, taken that gold from what was supposed to be a golden generation of heavyweights with Fury and Joshua and Wilder. It's the cruiserweight coming in and taking everyone's lunch money. Let's get to the fight breakdown. I had Usyk winning 117-111, but without that knockdown, this is a draw. Two judges scored at 114-113 in favor of the Ukrainian. And then there was one that had a bit more of a gap than that. I do think that for Usyk, that the judges were not overly favorable to him. Like I said, I had a 117-110. I thought he had a great fight, but he did so well late because, like, you think about how that fight is going. Usyk is kind of controlling things in the early going, and then Fury in the middle part of the fight starts to pull ahead, and I think a lot of people were wondering if Fury was going to wear down at that point. And I thought it was interesting that, like, we were at round 6 and, oh, Fury's not going away. It's like, yeah, there's still half the fight left. I've never been a big fan of the DAZN presentation, so is what it is. But Fury was starting to have a ton of success. He was starting to come forward, and he was really starting to land with power. And Usyk was able to turn that around and have his biggest round of the fight, getting the knockdown in the 9th round and eventually picking up the win. But when the success started to come again for Usyk was when he started landing to the body again. That was a major part of a major part of him really starting to put that work in and really start to get that thing back on track. That was big for him to do in the early part of the fight, that it was able to get him on the roll, and it was really important in the back part of it that was able to get him in that range to really start landing and to really start flying. And then the left opens up a little bit, and that's where he just clobbers Fury and sets up the knockdown. And I was going to say Fury ended up being lucky that he was on the ropes, but it was kind of a double-edged sword. If it was in the middle of the ring, that is a clean knockdown immediately, and Usyk has a chance to maybe, because Fury ends up being, quote-unquote, saved by the bell, but Usyk would have a chance to maybe swarm again and put a bit more damage on him. But because the ropes held him up, you don't get the knockdown initially, but then you also get the hell beat out of you a little bit more. And Fury was on his bicycle trying to get away, and so he's expending so much more cardio than he actually wanted to. But then, because it's on the ropes, the referee's like, okay, this would have been a knockdown by now. I'm stepping in here. Usyk was loading up another left and was about to send him right out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So you have, like, okay, well, it's good that he was on the ropes, but not good that he was on the ropes, but really good that he was on the ropes. It was such a weird situation, and then it took Fury about a round and a half to get going again, and Usyk did a really good job of controlling things in that part, and I thought was able to come away with a convincing victory, although it wasn't necessarily that way on the judges' scorecards. I thought Usyk did a really good job. The part that he did so well was controlling the ring. He was feet planted in the center of the ring, and I'm going to control how this fight is going. I did not expect that part of this. I did not expect for Fury to be on his back foot for as much of this fight as he was, given the size advantage that he had. I thought he would be the one kind of walking Usyk down, but it was the exact opposite, and Fury was backpedaling quite a bit, especially when Usyk was in control early in this fight and late in this fight. But Fury did a good job of taking that momentum back. Like, he started to get that timing down. As Usyk is coming in, he loads up that just kind of like looping right uppercut. And initially it was landing to the body. And then as Usyk was getting closer, it was Pez dispensering him a little bit and landing quickly to the head. And that was getting Fury to have a bit more success. And then he started beating Usyk to the punch a little bit. And so I thought Fury did a good job of adjusting his timing and getting that down to put the pressure on Usyk. But then Usyk makes a bit of an adjustment. He's going back to the body. And because, like, the head is really tough to reach for Usyk because of the height discrepancy. And it looked massive on television, the difference in size. But that body is just right here. It's just right here. I can just go. And he was able to do that. And I thought have quite a bit of success and was able to kind of turn that momentum back his way. And so Usyk to figure that piece out was so impressive. I came away really impressed with both of these fighters, but even more so Oleksandr Usyk coming away with this one. Just a really fantastic night and a big night for boxing. We'll have a bit more post-fight coverage throughout the week. I, for the first time, going to be unveiling the Couch Potato Diary pound for pound rankings on Wednesday, and then we'll look at fights that should be made coming out of this one. I think we know which one will be made, but we'll talk about fights that should be made coming up on Friday. So it was a big weekend in boxing, now a massive weekend in the world of pro wrestling. Both WWE and AEW are getting going. Let's start with the WWE. It is the King and Queen of the Ring this weekend, and in the WWE, this has felt like a coronation for Gunther. It has made him once again feel like a big deal, and like this is how you pivot off of a loss, where he's like, yeah, I lost, but now I've set my sights on this thing, and he has just been running through everyone. And you've been looking at the other half of the bracket, like who can give Gunther the biggest test. And so again, you have elevated Gunther. You have made him feel like a really big deal. And they have added something new to the repertoire with the damaging of the knee of Xavier Woods, and the pressure that he was able to put on Kofi Kingston as well. Like he has felt like just an absolute monster in this. And so they have done such a tremendous job of building him up one more time, coming off of the loss for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. But the whole tournament has felt like a big deal. It's fun to have it back, and it's elevating different performers in different ways. Like through the first round, couple lose, and you kind of forget that they were there. But from the second round on, like even Zoe Stark, I think, gets elevated a little bit from getting a win and putting on a good showing in her second round matchup. And aside from Jade Cargill getting disqualified, it has been basically clean finishes, and this is something new for WWE. I think if this happened a couple of years ago, it would be, DQ, run in, a count out, no, what happened, a surprise roll up, 1, 2, 3. And all of these would feel so unsatisfying. And I think the reason the tournament has felt so big is that there's consequences, and wins and losses are mattering. And even losses, though, like Ilya Dragunov, I don't think his stock gets sent back at all. I don't think... who was like, Dragunov. I don't think, Dragunov's status. I don't think any of these performers have been sent back at all. Just being included, I think, has really elevated a lot of these people. On the Ilya side, it was a bummer to not get Gunther versus Ilya, but they are setting it up well with Gunther walking by him and just laughing at him after the loss to Uso. So that is going to be, I think, something that is set up for, if not weeks, months down the road. And I am, as the kids would say, I am here for it. Women's side, it feels like anyone could win it. No one's a big Nia Jax fan, but this would absolutely give her something and kind of elevate that character a little bit. The match on Raw tonight is going to be incredible with Io Sky taking on Lyra Valkyrie. That match is going to be unbelievable. And so, again, you have this elevation of talent in this, and the King of the Ring is doing exactly what they needed to do, and it has made things feel dramatic and special on television. Becky Lynch against Liv Morgan. I want to see it hit one more gear this week. I think it's been a good feud, but tonight on Raw, I would love... one more punch to really get that one over the top. Because I think it's been good, and I think this match on Saturday is going to be tremendous. Cody against Logan Paul. It does feel a bit predictable. It feels like a bit of a placeholder and a bit of a dud. The promo work has been fine. The match will be good, I think. I think it would have been interesting if the United States Championship would have been on the line for this bout, and you get Cody like he's now a champ, and maybe it's like, look, I'm not gonna keep this title from anyone, so we're putting it up for grabs in something else. Again, you can't really do a tournament because you just did that, but there's something along those lines to maybe add just something to it. But this is going to be the difficulty with Cody for the next little bit, is no one has been built up to a level where they feel like they can beat this guy. So you're just kind of hoping that the feuds are entertaining, the matches are entertaining, and he continues to come across like a star. But overall, this has been a fun build-up, and I feel like the tournament has added importance to a lot of these performers, and we're coming out of the WrestleMania doldrums, the post-WrestleMania doldrums now, and it feels like they are hitting their stride now one more time. Let's shift gears now and talk AEW, as Double or Nothing is this weekend as well from Las Vegas, Nevada. I've quite enjoyed the build for this. I know I've been down on AEW in the past, but it feels like it's back on track, and it feels like Dynamite is kind of must watch again. AEW versus the Elite, I think, has been really, really good. It does feel a little early to be getting to Anarchy in the arena, but it feels like a really great way to jumpstart this a little bit, right? Instead of, oh, well, now it's some tag team matches, and oh man, the Elite are still pulling away, and now they have control of the company. Getting to this escalated spot so quickly, I do think will allow this to really hit its stride in the weeks and months to come. I'm interested to see how they integrate New Japan into all of this now as well. But I think that overall that this does get this thing rolling in a big time way. Jack Perry has come across like a star in this whole build. And Darby Allin coming back was unexpected. It was a great moment, and it now makes him feel like a big star as well. So it's already, I think, created a couple of big opportunities here, and I will be interested to see if we start to get like an on-screen commissioner who is going to take the place of Tony Khan. We don't need to see Tony Khan in an on-air role at all. And so I'll be interested to see if there is a type of a commissioner, a Nick Aldis type, who can come in and get this thing going. Swerve against Strickland has been really, really fun. And I feel like this week on Dynamite tied it all together, where some of it was a bit of a side quest against the Embassy, but Christian was able to tie it all back around. And I think this Wednesday needs to be the, like, this is a blood feud, I hate you sort of a thing. I wouldn't mind, like, we haven't seen AEW go multiple pay-per-view cycles with the same championship match. And it might be tough given the New Japan relationship for Forbidden Door. But I would love if this was like a 2, 3, 4 month build and not just a 1 month thing here. Because I think there are there might be some legs to it, although they have kind of crescendoed it here. Malachi Black and Adam Copeland have been really, really good. I think they've used the House of Black so well to build this feud up. It feels like a big feud with a big match to cap it all off. And again, feels like it is kind of building to that crescendo here at Double or Nothing. And it has made Malachi Black feel like a main eventer. Like, I would not be surprised if he won in this particular bout, and eventually is challenging for the world title by the end of the year. Mercedes Moné needs a big match at Double or Nothing. The debut has felt like a dud. The promos have felt 2016 WWE, and that's not a good realm to be in. And quite frankly, like, she feels like the B-side to Willow Nightingale. So I think to get that interest back in Mercedes Moné, where instead of a eye roll when she comes on the screen, there's excitement. I think this needs to be an unbelievable match to kind of get that momentum going again. And I think the women's division needs it. Like, there's a lot of interesting things happening right now, but they're not building up challengers the way they need to. And I think Serena Deeb is a good showing of that. Like, Serena Deeb is a tremendous performer and has been for a very, very long time. And it was a heartfelt story that she told in Edmonton. They just didn't build her up like she was a threat until now. And so I think that needs to be something that really gets focused on in the weeks and months ahead, is to not just have, oh, we have 2 title matches for the women on these shows and then the rest are guys matches. There needs to be contenders being built on these and other storylines for the women right now. But overall, this has been a really good pay-per-view period for AEW, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of Double or Nothing coming up this weekend. Okay, that is going to do it for the show today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are listening, make sure you download and make sure you are subscribing. As always, sorry, a little distracted there. If you are watching, you can like this video and subscribe and leave a comment. You can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein, twitch.tv/PrimetimePK, and you can email the show, couchpotatodiary@yahoo.com. Back tomorrow. Talk to y'all later. I am out.